SARS now. End SARS now. End SARS now.
As we all know, quite a lot has been going on in Nigeria in recent times, and it's all around what the youth have been doing. And that's why it's a big pleasure to have as our guest today, the Principal Counsel, Habitat Lex Justicia, as well as Head of Chambers, Lawrence Alobi and Co. EFA OKA is a barrister at law and a distinguished lawyer at his prime in his illustrious career. He's articulate, brilliant, and debonair. Most importantly, he's an active social and human rights activist whose writings, actions, and activities give sleepless nights to those who misuse and abuse power, and of course, who renders help and assistance to those who are at the receiving end of these injustices. We are very pleased to welcome you, Mr. EFA OKA.
Thank you so very much for having me. It's more of an honor.
Let's start with the current campaign by the youth. You were one of the earliest initiators and a fervent supporter of the ongoing #EndSARS protests. What was your motivation and why have you remained steadfast for almost 2 weeks now?
Well, I wouldn't really say I was one of the initiators. Yes, for over the years, I've been at the forefront of the EndSARS campaign. I've been at the forefront of insisting that operatives of the special anti-robbery squads of the Nigerian police force are reformed and trained properly to carry out their duties. The motivation I've had in respect of that is seeing clients that have suffered injustice over the years, looking at a widow and orphans who have been put in that situation as a result of the impunity and the wrongful actions of some of these special anti-robbery squad officers. That is the motivation, that it could be me or any of my children that will be rendered fatherless. And so the motivation is trying to get the system to work and work the way the law makes and has planned it to work.
Well, you use this word now, the system. Don't you think that the current approach by the youth, which has been in some quarters criticized, may not help change the system per se? Because as you would imagine, things have snowballed across the country and in fact all over the world. But what we see is some kind of tokenism going around where they change the name from SARS to SWAT, and of course there's been a lot more protests thereafter. What exactly do you think the youth have done this time that has made this trend so much more than the other times that there have been such campaigns for it? And of course, why do you think the previous other EndSARS campaigns ended up the way they did?
I think this time around, young people have realized that they must hold government accountable for the wrongful acts of their operatives. Now, before now, we've had, in fact, since 2017, we've had the federal government and the Inspector General of Police talk about either scrapping SARS, rebranding SARS, or in fact, in one of the instances, the Vice President said that SARS has been disbanded. But you find out that they come back more vicious, they come back carrying out actions with impunity, and no one has ever held them accountable. It will interest you to note that we have the Anti-Torture Act, signed by the present President Muhammadu Buhari, and the provisions of that act is clear, very clear, explicitly describes actions that amount to torture. But no one official, no one operative of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, to our knowledge so far, has been arrested, tried, and convicted for an offense under that act. You see, the Anti-Torture Act was made pursuant to international conventions in which Nigeria is a party to. And the intention is to stop security operatives from carrying out acts such as that in which the special anti-robbery squads are engaging in. You have situations where people are shot at will for no reason. You have situations where people, just because you do not want to hand over your phone or open your phone, you are tied upside down and tortured for days and weeks. You have situations where people are incarcerated for months. In fact, in some instances, family members do not know that their relatives are being held by the special anti-robbery squad. In fact, recently, I have a client who was arrested on an allegation of rape. In less than 48 hours in the SARS cells, we were told he had died and that he committed suicide. In a cell where you have 50 people held in cramped situation. How do you believe such stories? So Nigerians over the years are tired of hearing that the special anti-robbery squad is being reformed, that the special anti-robbery squad has been scrapped, but still they're carrying out their actions with impunity. The Nigerian youths are saying enough is enough. We do not want to hear the stories. We want to see clear actions being taken out by this government to correct the madness going on in the system.
You mentioned the madness. These acts of torture and brutality, is it really peculiar to just the SARS? Because we are aware that you also have the anti-cultism squads. You also have, of course, the special squads in the various police stations and the various area commands. And it is clear that this seems to be a systemic way of doing things generally in the police force. So why has the concentration therefore been on SARS?
Well, it's been a system or practice that's across board. Apart from the Nigerian police force, apart from the SARS, the special anti-robbery squad, it also happens in the DSS, in the army. You have instances where lawful protesters have come out to protest, and then in fact, recently, there was a press release by the Nigerian army against protesters and calling lawful, peaceful protesters mischief makers. I mean, what business does the Nigerian army have with civil disturbance? None whatsoever. Our constitution is clear as to who has the duty to police in a democratic setting. And it is the Nigerian police force. The duty of the Nigerian army is spelled out clearly. The only time that the military can come in or the army can come in is where the president clearly gives them instructions that, look, the civil authority, the situation is so bad that the civil authority cannot handle it. Step in and aid them, not take over. Step in and aid them. But see, we have a Nigerian system that is more or less politicized, where the chief of army staff can give directives and make pronouncements that citizens who are going about. Now it would shock you that the provisions of our constitution is clear, that a Nigerian has a right to peaceful assembly. A Nigerian has a right to express his grievances to government. And in expressing the grievances to government, the chief of army staff comes out to say that they are mischief makers. How? Why? There's no basis whatsoever for it. It is the impunity we are talking about. It is the lack of understanding of your duties as provided for by law that is causing the problem we have in Nigeria as of today. And we think that is not acceptable. People who have been given duties under the law should carry out their duties as spelled out clearly by the provisions of the law. This is where the rule of law comes in. The rule of law is clear that the provisions of the law guide actions of persons in authority. And where persons in authority go outside the scope of their powers, they must be held accountable. It is a refusal of holding people who are doing wrongful acts accountable for their action. That is why Nigeria is where it is today.
You might want to say that the Chief of Army Staff is simply amplifying what some political actors have been saying, because there have been allegations out there that these protests are now being sponsored by politicians. And it's something that's been going on for quite a while, probably also because of the extremely stellar way, if you like, that the youth have organized themselves, mobilized themselves, and most importantly, mobilized resources. First of all, what do you think has been the difference this time that got the youth having such good organizational capabilities, and of course that has now forced some political players to begin to believe, whether rightly or wrongly, that they are being sponsored? And of course, like I said, now it's been amplified by Chief of Army Staff. What kind of safeguards do you have to ensure that nobody hijacks this process?
All right. Now, I heard the story of or the fears expressed by those in authority that the protest is being sponsored by politicians, and I laughed. I laughed because the average Nigerian politician has taken Nigerians, and particularly young people, for granted for a long time. And this is the reason, which is why you have people in authority that will call young people lazy. You have people in authority that will use derogatory words on young people who aspire to get the best for themselves. Now, the End SARS protest was a spontaneous action by young people who were tired and are tired of a bad system. Young people who believe that if they do not step up now and act, we might have in our hands a country that is worse than that in Somalia, that in other countries where you have so many war-torn situations. No one is sponsoring the young people. In fact, on the first day, on the Saturday when we went out for the protest, young people sacrificed their 1,000, their 3,000, their 5,000 to buy water, to buy food, and shared it amongst themselves. It is not, you also had, sorry, I have to mention names. You had people like Sowore who came to the Abuja protest and wanted to make a speech. And young people told him that, look, it is not a political gathering or movement. It is young people that are coming together to say enough is enough. We also had Aisha Yusuf come, and we said, look, what we are doing today is a protest to end SARS. The first step, to hold people accountable, to insist that things are done the right way. Let's get that out of the way, and then we can pursue other grievances. That's it.
Okay, excellent. So now we're in the final days of the second week of this campaign. For how long do you think this would keep going? And then so far, what do you think, or what do you feel about the response from the federal and state governments?
I think it will go for as long as it needs to go, for us to have a solid commitment, not just in words, but in clear actions. You would be surprised that majority of the young people in the protests that have been coming out day after day to protest are graduates. Some of them of the best institutions around the world. They think, they know, they have seen systems out there that work. So you cannot just come and make a statement or make press releases thinking that that is sufficient. We must see that persons who have done something wrong, persons who have abused their powers, persons who have acted with impunity in the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, in the Nigerian Police Force, in the DSS, in the Nigerian Army, are held accountable for their actions. They should be arrested. You'll be surprised that I have written petitions to the Inspector General of Police for wrongs carried out against some of my clients. Months, years, and they have not replied my letter, not once. You cannot have a system where people's rights are abused and you write to the supervising authority about such right abuses, and the supervising authority cannot get back to you to ask why or ask you to explain how these wrongs were carried out. So you see, I believe that if people are given opportunity to express their grievances, it would at least take off part of their anger for a bad system. But you see, Nigerians are not being given the opportunity. That is why young people are pouring into the streets and forcing the government to hear them. The government is not ready to hear the Nigerian youth. They are not ready. They are just carrying out cosmetic action. Cosmetic actions alone would not solve the problem. We have a systematic rot in the system, and we must cleanse the system. We must keep our ethnic biases, our religious biases aside, and ask ourselves, what is right for Nigeria today? We all know what is right for our country. We all know what is right to move our country forward. If we are ready to correct it, we will. Until that time, the Nigerian youth are insisting that things must be done right.
Okay, some may say that what you are insisting on is scapegoatism. But what you have further elucidated in the course of your answer just now is that this is a systemic thing. If you had written to the IG in the course of your duties as a barrister, and you haven't got a response for months, for years, then is it holding those officers accountable as the issue, or holding those who are responsible for the ineffective system that should be responsible?
Well, I agree that those who are responsible for an ineffective system should be held responsible for the actions of their subordinates. But I think we should start somewhere. I believe if those who are responsible for this organization start holding individual rogue police officers responsible for their actions, the other ones would learn and would understand that there are consequences for their action. Now, don't get me wrong. I have met a lot of intelligent, a lot of professional police and law enforcement agents who carry out their jobs by the book, who carry out their duties as provided for by law. I have met a lot of them. The only way to deter other police officers who carry out these wrongful acts is by holding them accountable. Let us start somewhere. At least we can correct the system by insisting that people are held accountable. We'll get up there, but let's start from the base first.
Away from the protests, you are on record to have sued the Cross River State government, your home state, for forcing 18 local governments to donate to an anti-COVID program. Why did you do that, and what is the update so far on that legal cause?
The ethics of our profession does not allow us discuss matters that are pending in courts. It is unethical, it is unprofessional. That said, part of the problem we have is an institutional problem, and the refusal of people to hold elected representatives accountable for their actions. Now, the reason why I agitate, the reasons why I take steps to insist that government should be answerable to the people is that I want to leave a better system and country for the future generation. Now, taking the government of Cross River State to court, the reason why I did that is because I believe strongly that the government of Cross River State does not have power to dip their hands into funds that is accruable into the accounts of the local government area. They do not have such right. No law gives them the power. The Constitution is clear that a joint local government account should be opened for funds due or allocation due from the federal government to the local government. That is where funds should be domiciled in. And funds that accrues to the state government, which ought to be shared between the state government and the various local government, and the amount due to the local government should also be domiciled in those accounts. But you see, we have a system where a governor sits down and decides that he can spend money due to another arm of government, another tier of government. That is wrong. That is unacceptable. And we cannot sit and fold our hands and allow people to act as if people are not watching.
But meanwhile, for how long have you been doing this? How long have you been the principal counsel of Habitat Lex Justicia?
Well, I've been the principal counsel of Habitat Lex Justicia for about 10 years now, about a decade now. I've been into active law practice for about 16 years now. In fact, next month we'll make it 16 years exactly. Okay. And it's been good and bad experience. Good experiences, seeing that you're able to protect the rights of people, you're able to help people ensure that you're able to secure the interests, the rights of people. Bad because you're found in situations where there are oftentimes people misinterpret your actions and think that you're going after them personally. And they send thugs, they send people to confront you, they send people to harm you. But we owe our generation a duty, even though it means sacrificing certain things, but we owe our generation a duty to correct the system. So those that are coming after us would benefit if we cannot benefit in our lifetime.
Okay, on a final note, we are aware that you are a father of 3 little children. You've talked so much about the kind of Nigeria you'd like to bequeath, but just give us in a nutshell, what kind of country would you like to bequeath to your children to discourage them from trying to flee the country, as indeed a lot of youth have been doing because of the kind of challenges we've had in Nigeria for so long?
I want a country where everyone's rights is protected, as provided for by law. I love a country where every Nigerian is equal, not only before the law, but before their peers. I want a country where the fears, the cries of people are heard. I want a country where a Nigerian can walk freely and practice his religion freely in any part of Nigeria and not be afraid that he will be hacked to death. I want a country where a Nigerian in Aba can go to Borno and start up his business and practice his religion and practice his tradition freely and not be forced to move out of the country by people who do not think he is part of them. I want a country where our education system would compete with the ones around the world. Not just the private system, the private education system, but the public system, where a person can go to a primary school, a public primary school, and compete with those who are in private expensive school, or go to a public university and compete with those comfortably with those in private universities. I want a country where I am not afraid to say things that affect me and my generation. And I'm not afraid that the law enforcement agent will pick me up for airing and expressing my views. That is the kind of country I want to live for my children, where they have the opportunity to be the best that they want to be, because the government has made the right environment for them to be themselves.
Thank you very much. I guess that's a Nigeria that a lot of youth also look forward to. And we certainly do hope that we'll find that Nigeria in our own time. At the very worst, we should have that ideal Nigeria by the time our children all grow up, which is happening very fast. Once again, I want to thank you very much, EFA OKA, for being with us today. And we do wish you, as you and your colleagues who are leading from behind, because we have seen that we have leaders who are not showing their faces in this particular campaign. We do know that it's not possible that this thing would have been happening without some leaders who are leading from behind, as it were, because it appears that there's a template generally across board, and this template is working for every part of the campaign in Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt. We wish our youth luck, and we definitely hope that at the end of the day, we are going to have a lot of other stakeholders coming in order for us to realize the Nigeria of our dreams.